Beneath the Earth's surface lies a realm of hidden wonders and lurking perils. Caves have fascinated humans for centuries with their towering stalagmites, intricate passageways, and mysterious darkness. But no matter how alluring, caving is not a casual pastime. It demands serious planning, reliable equipment, and a healthy respect for the unknown. Today, we'll revisit 3 haunting stories of caving expeditions that ended in tragedy. While each expedition started with excitement and curiosity, unforeseen dangers quickly turned them into life-threatening ordeals. In these stories, we'll expand on how events developed over time, as well as the intense rescue efforts that followed. Viewers' discretion advised. 1. The silent ice tragedy at Eisriesenwelt. Eisriesenwelt in Austria is the largest ice cave in the world, famed for its glimmering ice formations and winding frozen corridors. Nestled high in the Alps near Werfen, it attracts thousands of visitors each year, most of whom stick to guided tours. Yet some adventurous souls venture deeper into its frigid recesses, seeking to uncover unmapped sections of this majestic subterranean labyrinth. In March 2018, 4 such explorers, Hannah Roth, Tobias Klein, Ingrid Kraus, and Dominik Weber, decided to test their skills in a little-known chamber, rumored to contain ancient ice sculptures. They were well-versed in mountaineering and basic caving, but Eisriesenwelt's unique conditions posed challenges, unlike anything they had faced before. On the day of their expedition, the group arrived at the cave entrance loaded with ropes, crampons, and thermal gear. They had spent weeks studying maps and reading accounts from seasoned explorers who warned of shifting ice walls and treacherous crevasses. Despite the cautions, their excitement soared. Hannah, a glaciology student, was determined to take detailed measurements of the cave's thick ice layers. Tobias and Dominik, both experienced climbers, eagerly anticipated the thrill of scaling frozen walls. Ingrid, an alpine photographer, hoped to capture the otherworldly beauty that few had ever witnessed. The initial descent went smoothly. They navigated ice-crusted passageways under the glow of powerful headlamps, marveling at crystal-clear columns rising from the floor like ancient guardians. The temperature dropped steadily as they moved deeper, but their insulated clothing and steady pace kept them warm. The excitement grew with each step into the silent depths, a world where every exhaled breath crystallized in midair. They believed their preparation would see them through any danger, unaware that a hidden chasm awaited them just around a bend. As they pressed on, the path narrowed. It led to a slippery ledge overlooking a deep crevasse formed by millennia of shifting ice. Tobias went first, planting his crampons carefully. Hannah followed, using an ice axe to stabilize herself. Ingrid and Dominik stayed close behind, occasionally stopping to snap photographs of the glittering formations. Halfway across, a chunk of ice cracked under Tobias's weight. He slipped, and in the blink of an eye, tumbled into the crevasse below. His shocked cry echoed through the cavern as he vanished into the darkness. Panic gripped the group. Hannah and Ingrid rushed to the edge, calling Tobias's name. Dominik, his voice trembling, peered over the lip of the crevasse, but could see nothing beyond the beam of his flashlight reflecting off swirling ice dust. Fearing the worst, they quickly anchored a rope, hoping to rappel down and reach Tobias. The biting cold and the slick ice walls made every movement perilous. As Dominik descended, he realized the chasm was deeper and more uneven than they had imagined. An icy maze with hidden pockets and fragile overhangs that threatened to collapse. Once Dominik reached a small ledge, he spotted Tobias lying motionless, about 10 meters below. A hastily assembled pulley system allowed them to lower Hannah, who had medical training. She found Tobias unconscious with a broken leg and severe hypothermia. While she stabilized him, Ingrid radioed for help, her voice shaking as she relayed their remote location. Dominik tried to calm the group, but an undercurrent of dread weighed heavily on them. Rescue in a place like Eisriesenwelt would be complex, and time was not on their side. Outside, Austrian alpine rescue teams mobilized immediately upon receiving Ingrid's call. Conditions were harsh, temperatures well below freezing, strong gusts of wind blowing through the cave entrance and the treacherous terrain inside. Rescuers carried specialized ice screws, anchors, and thermal stretchers designed for high-angle extractions. It took them hours to navigate the twisting corridors and set up a secure route leading down into the depths of the crevasse. Every step demanded caution. One misstep or sudden shift in the ice could trigger a catastrophic collapse. When they finally reached Tobias, he was barely responsive. Hannah had done her best to keep him warm, but his core temperature had dropped dangerously low, and blood loss from his fractured leg had weakened him further. Rescue team members worked methodically, checking vitals, applying a vacuum splint, and wrapping him in insulating blankets. Using a system of pulleys and ropes, they painstakingly hauled Tobias up the vertical ice walls, ensuring he remained as still as possible to prevent aggravating his injuries. With each pull, the rescuers strained against the unyielding cold and their own mounting fatigue, knowing that haste could spell disaster. Once Tobias reached the surface, he was rushed to a waiting medical helicopter, where doctors immediately began treating his hypothermia and stabilizing his leg. The rest of the team emerged not long after, relieved to be back in daylight but haunted by the near-fatal accident. Tobias survived, though he spent weeks in the hospital recovering from frostbite and a complex fracture. His climbing days were uncertain, and the group's sense of invincibility was shattered. The gleaming corridors of Eisriesenwelt now held a different meaning for them, echoing with the memory of a single misstep that nearly claimed a life. In the silent depths of the largest ice cave on Earth, this expedition's narrow escape highlights a sobering fact. No amount of gear or confidence can fully tame nature's raw power. Even the most seasoned explorers can be caught off guard, especially where ice, darkness, and the unknown converge. Eisriesenwelt remains as stunning as ever, but for those who dare venture beyond its tourist paths, it stands as a silent witness to human fragility, an unforgiving reminder that beneath breathtaking beauty lies the possibility of tragedy. Now let's continue with story number 2, Tragedy in Postojna Cave. Postojna Cave in southwestern Slovenia is one of Europe's most famous subterranean landmarks. Tourists from around the globe come to admire its towering stalactites, flowing underground river and expansive chambers. Most visitors stick to the well-lit paths and the iconic train ride that glides through the spectacular formations. However, there are hidden passageways and deeper chambers that remain off-limits to casual explorers, protected by local regulations to prevent accidents and preserve the cave's fragile ecosystem. In August 2019, a group of 5 friends, led by a passionate caver named Stefan Juric, decided they would break away from the standard routes. They had heard rumors of narrow corridors in the cave that contained especially rare formations. Stefan, who had some experience in caving, managed to persuade the others that they had enough skill and gear to handle any obstacle. Eager for adventure, the group packed ropes, headlamps, and basic climbing equipment, convinced that an official guide was not strictly necessary. Their first few hours in the cave were exhilarating. Passing beyond the tourist walkways, they felt a surge of excitement as the artificial lights faded behind them. Small crystals glinted on the limestone walls, and the steady drip of water echoed through the darkness. The group paused often to marvel at intriguing rock shapes, some resembling mythical creatures. Stefan used a simple hand-drawn map he had compiled from online sources and bits of local lore. Although it was rudimentary, he believed it would be enough to help them navigate. Eventually, they reached a fork where the map gave little guidance. After a brief debate, they followed a passage that seemed to slope downward at a gentle angle. The air grew humid, and the ground slick with moisture. At times, they had to crouch low, sliding along muddy sections that were clearly untouched by casual visitors. While the claustrophobic spaces made some of them uneasy, Stefan led with confidence, reassuring everyone that their goal was close. When they emerged into a small chamber, they realized the slope had been steeper than they thought. Before them lay a steep drop, partially concealed by jagged stalagmites. Nina, one of the less experienced members, was at the front when her boot slipped on a patch of algae-like growth. She lost her footing and fell onto a protruding rock edge. Her anguished cry reverberated through the chamber, prompting the rest of the group to rush forward. They found her clutching her leg, tears streaming down her face, indicating a severe injury. Fearing that Nina's leg might be broken, Stefan tried to radio for help, only to discover that the cave's depth and twisting passages severely weakened the signal. The group attempted to lift Nina and carry her back toward the main corridors, but it was clear they were running out of energy. After repeated attempts to send out a distress call, they realized that one person would need to climb to higher ground. Stefan volunteered, feeling the weight of responsibility for having led them there in the first place. Stefan's climb back to a shallower part of the cave was agonizing. Every step was made uncertain by the slippery rock, and exhaustion gnawed at him. At last, he picked up a faint signal and managed to contact local authorities. Within hours, a specialized cave rescue team arrived at Postojna's entrance. Equipped with stretchers, medical supplies, and advanced communication tools, they navigated quickly through the familiar tourist sections before delving into the uncharted corridors. Reaching Nina took considerable time, as the rescuers had to secure ropes at multiple points to ensure a safe extraction. When the team finally got Nina onto a stretcher, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. She was in significant pain, but her condition was stable enough for the slow journey back to daylight. At the surface, paramedics rushed her to a nearby hospital, where X-rays confirmed a broken leg and other minor injuries. Nina's healing process would be lengthy, and the entire group was left shaken. Their once exciting exploration had nearly turned into a nightmare, a stark reminder that venturing beyond established routes in a cave can lead to profound and sometimes life-threatening consequences. Let's continue with today's episode last story, Catastrophe in the Waitomo Caves. New Zealand's Waitomo Caves are world-renowned for their ethereal beauty. Thousands of tiny glowworms cling to the cavern ceilings, creating a breathtaking display of bluish-green lights that resemble a star-filled night sky. Most tourists experience these caves by guided boat tours, floating gently beneath the dazzling luminescence. However, beyond the main tourist paths lies an extensive system of less-traveled tunnels, winding waterways, and hidden chambers that present an entirely different level of challenge. These additional sections can be perilous, requiring advanced caving skills and careful planning. In March 2020, three enthusiastic cavers, Tom Ainsley, Briar Lee, and Hector Ponder, secured special permission to film a documentary in one of these restricted sections. They worked with local officials to ensure they had a licensed guide named Micah, who knew the winding channels beneath Waitomo better than anyone else. Their goal was to capture the incredible life cycle of glowworms and shed light on the fragile underwater ecosystems that thrived in the darkness. Optimistic and well-prepared, the trio arrived with a collection of cameras, waterproof lighting, and scientific instruments to record every detail of their journey. On their first day of exploration, the group was in high spirits. Clad in wetsuits and equipped with waterproof headlamps, they navigated the water-filled passages leading away from the main tourist routes. The further they ventured, the more radiant the glowworms appeared. Briar, acting as the lead videographer, filmed rows of delicate stalactites and stalagmites, as Tom and Hector provided enthusiastic commentary about cave geology and biology. The chambers they passed through were serene, with only the faint trickling of water echoing off the cave walls. It did not take long for them to realize the complexity of the Waitomo system. Certain corridors were deceptively narrow, forcing them to wade through waist-deep water and squeeze past jagged rock formations. Micah guided them carefully, pointing out areas where sudden drops or hidden underwater pockets posed a risk. Despite these challenges, the group maintained a steady pace, pausing frequently to capture footage of the glowworms' eerie luminosity. Their excitement for the documentary overshadowed the potential dangers. By the second day, a sense of routine had developed. Micah would plan each segment of the route, Briar would verify camera settings, and Tom and Hector would discuss which sections to highlight in their film. However, tension arose when Tom and Hector proposed exploring an offshoot corridor known to flood unpredictably when rain fell in the region. Ominous clouds gathered above ground, but the pair insisted it would be a brief reconnaissance, confident they could handle any complications. Briar and Micah expressed concern, noting the corridor's reputation for rapid flooding. Yet Tom and Hector pressed on, driven by the desire to obtain more dramatic footage for their documentary. Once the two men left to investigate the corridor, Micah and Briar focused on capturing glowworm footage in a nearby chamber. They had planned to reunite with Tom and Hector within an hour, but that hour stretched into 2, then 3. Anxiety began to replace Briar's initial excitement. She attempted to call out for them, her voice reverberating through dark passages, but there was no response. Micah's expression grew grim as the sound of rushing water echoed ever louder, an unmistakable sign that rainfall had increased the flow inside the cave. Meanwhile, Tom and Hector quickly realized they were in trouble. The corridor they had entered was barely passable, with knee-deep water surging around their legs. When the passage narrowed and turned sharply, they felt a strong current tug at them. Within minutes, the route behind them became submerged, cutting off their path back. Desperate to avoid being swept away, they scrambled onto a slippery rock shelf, their headlamps illuminating the rising water that churned below. Exhaustion and fear set in as they huddled on the ledge, trying to remain calm while their bodies trembled from the cold. Micah and Briar knew something was seriously wrong when they failed to find any sign of Tom and Hector in the main passage. Fighting the increasing current, they retreated toward the cave entrance and alerted the authorities. New Zealand's local rescue squads, well practiced in the art of water rescues and spelunking, sprang into action. They transported rafts and specialized climbing gear through the main chambers, carefully searching for flooded tunnels where the missing men might be trapped. The search was complicated by unstable water levels and the occasional collapse of smaller tunnels, which made navigation treacherous. After nearly 24 hours of relentless searching, the rescue team finally located Tom and Hector. The pair clung to their precarious ledge, their faces etched with exhaustion and their headlamps nearly out of power. Skilled divers secured ropes and guided the men back through the now partially flooded passage. It was a delicate operation, as one wrong move could have sent them, or the rescuers, tumbling into dangerous rapids. Yet the rescuers, adept at maneuvering through tight and waterlogged corridors, inched them toward safety with practiced precision. Upon reaching the surface, Tom and Hector were rushed to a makeshift medical station where paramedics treated them for hypothermia, shock, and minor injuries. Though they were expected to recover fully, the brush with death left an indelible mark. Their documentary, initially meant to celebrate the wonders of the Waitomo glowworm caves, now carried an unplanned lesson about respect for nature's unpredictability. In the aftermath, Micah emphasized that their experience was not an isolated incident, rather a vivid example of how rapidly conditions can change in an underground water system. A single choice, driven by curiosity and ambition, had almost cost 2 lives in a place that, until then, had seemed merely enchanting. Now, hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, and make sure to turn on notifications so you do not miss out our caving videos. And more importantly, watch this video right here because it's a perfect fit for you. I'll see you on the other side.